Lyra walked slowly through the silent valley of the old human colony. The sun of the alien world glowed in soft blue colors above her head. She loved exploring new places, and this place had always pulled her in like a strange dream. People in her village called it a forbidden zone, a place full of old human secrets. But to Lyra, secrets were invitations. She believed that every mystery waited for someone brave enough to open it, although she was young. She had the heart of a hunter and the mind of an explorer. Her thin silver hair moved in the cool wind, and her eyes shimmered like crystal water. For months, she had heard rumors that deep inside these ruins, old human machines still slept. Machines from the Great War they once fought across the stars. Machines too dangerous to touch, according to the elders. But danger was only danger if one understood it, and Lyra understood nothing of humans. So to her, this was only curiosity, not fear. She stepped into a broken metal hallway that led underground. The air turned colder and smelled like dust and rusted iron. Lyra touched the walls gently and felt strange energy still pulsing inside the old wires. It was like the ruins were not dead, only waiting. Her heart beat faster with each step. Every sound echoed like footsteps behind her, even though she was alone. At last, she reached a heavy door half buried under stones. Human symbols were carved across its center, symbols she could not read. She pushed the stones away, her arms shaking from the effort. The door slid open with a screech that made her ears hurt. Cold air rushed out like a trapped breath, escaping after years of silence. Inside was a dark room, lit only by a few blinking red lights. The room looked untouched, frozen in time. Tables, chairs, broken screens, wires tangled like vines. A human military lab from the old days of war. Lyra stepped carefully, afraid to break anything. Her eyes caught a small glass bottle resting on a metal table. It was the only object that looked clean and undamaged. A glowing blue liquid inside swirled slowly, almost alive. There was a human label on it. But she could not read human writing. All she saw were strange lines and one bold warning sign. A large red mark with sharp corners, but to her, it meant nothing. She lifted the bottle and held it close to her face. The liquid shimmered like a tiny piece of the sky. She felt warmth coming from it. As if it wanted her to touch it, Lyra was curious, too curious for her own safety. She opened the bottle slowly. The scent was sweet, like fruit mixed with something metallic. She felt her throat dry after hours of walking through dust and darkness. She whispered softly, "Maybe it is water." Her voice echoed in the empty lab. She brought the bottle to her lips. But the bottle slipped as she moved. The liquid splashed onto her tongue before she could react. She swallowed by accident. Only a small drop, but enough to send a shock through her body. At first, nothing happened. Then her pulse jumped like a wild drum inside her chest. Her skin warmed and her breath grew heavy. The blue glow from the bottle spilled across her fingers. Her vision blurred as a strange heat flowed through her veins. She dropped the bottle, and it shattered on the metal floor. Blue liquid spreading like glowing fire. Lyra gasped and held her chest. Something powerful was waking inside her. Something human, but also something far more dangerous for an alien body. She stumbled back as the room seemed to shake around her. She did not know it yet, but she had just awakened a forgotten human supersoldier serum. A serum never meant for someone like her, and now it was inside her, alive, growing, and waiting to change her life forever. For a long moment, Lyra stood frozen in the silent lab. Her hands trembled as a strange burning feeling moved slowly through her veins. It felt like tiny sparks were waking inside her muscles. The ground under her feet no longer felt steady. It was as if the whole world was tilting sideways. Her breath came fast, but she could not stop it. The blue glow from the shattered serum spread across the metal floor. It painted the room with a soft, unnatural light. Lyra stared at it. Confused and frightened, she had touched many human things before, but nothing had ever reacted like this. She pressed her hand over her heart as the heat inside her chest grew sharper. It wasn't pain, but it wasn't comfort either. It was something wild, something she had never felt in her life. She tried to speak, but her voice came out as a whisper. "What is happening to me?" Her words floated weakly through the empty room. The lights on the walls blinked faster, responding to her body's growing energy. Old machines hummed softly, waking from their deep sleep as if sensing new power. Lyra stumbled backward until her back hit the cold wall. She closed her eyes tightly, hoping the feeling would pass. But the burn in her chest only grew stronger. Her skin tingled and her fingers twitched with sudden strength. She felt like she could lift anything in the room, even things she had never been able to move before. When she opened her eyes again, the world looked clearer. The dust floating in the air moved slowly, almost too slowly. She could hear the faint hum of wires hidden inside the walls. She could sense the vibrations far above the ground where the colony wind touched the ruins. Everything felt louder, brighter, sharper. It frightened her, but at the same time, a strange excitement grew inside her. She tried to steady herself, but her legs felt restless, like she needed to run, fight, or move in any direction just to release the pressure inside her. It felt like her own body was becoming too small to hold the power the serum had released. Her breathing grew uneven as heat spread to her arms and neck. A sharp pulse moved down her spine. She gasped and dropped to one knee, gripping the cold floor outside the lab. Faint alarms began to activate. Human technology still recognized the serum's energy signature. It had been created for soldiers during the Great War, soldiers who needed to be stronger, faster, and more aggressive in battle. No human had used the serum in years, and no alien had ever touched it. Yet now the system had detected a living host for it again. And that host was Lyra. She tried to stand, but her legs shook uncontrollably. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears like a war drum. It wasn't her normal heartbeat. It was heavier, stronger, too powerful for her small frame. She pressed both hands to the floor, trying to steady her mind, but a wave of heat rushed up her neck and into her head. Her vision blurred, then sharpened again in a strange rhythm. The room pulsed like it was breathing with her. Lyra's mind filled with confusion. She did not understand humans, their machines, or their warnings, so she did not know what she had truly swallowed. She only knew that her body was no longer the same. Her senses were exploding, her strength was rising, and her emotions were twisting into something she could not control. A sudden burst of energy shot from her hand and cracked the floor under her. She jerked back in shock, staring at the broken metal. She had never been strong enough to do that, not even close. Fear and amazement mixed inside her like storm clouds colliding. The serum was awake. The serum was changing her. And far above the silent ruins, something else had noticed her transformation. A distant ship turned toward her location as scanners detected the unstable power inside the colony. Lyra did not know it yet, but her life was no longer her own. The change had only begun. High above the silent colony ruins, a human patrol ship drifted through the dark sky like a lonely metal bird. Its scanners moved quietly across the surface, searching for any sign of old war technology. Most days were calm, but today the ship detected something strange. A sudden spike of energy, sharp and hot. Rising from the forbidden zone, the energy signature was not normal, not natural, not safe. The computer inside the ship flashed a red warning. Unknown biological source detected. Inside the patrol ship, two human soldiers quickly turned toward the alarms. Commander Hale narrowed his eyes at the screen. The spike was too strong to ignore. It looked like something powerful had woken up after many years, something that should have stayed hidden. He grabbed his helmet and stood up. "We need to check that place now," he said firmly. His voice carried the seriousness of a man who had seen war too many times. Back underground, Lyra pushed herself to her feet. Her body still trembled from the strange new strength running through her veins. The ruined lab around her was glowing faintly from the energy she had released. She didn't understand any of it. She only knew that she had changed. And the change was getting stronger every second. Her breath grew heavy as she stepped out of the room. The air felt too cold, too sharp, too loud. Even her heartbeat echoed like a distant drum inside her ears as she reached the hallway. She suddenly heard a faint noise outside. At first, she thought it was the wind. But the sound grew deeper, steadier, heavier. The kind of sound metal wings made when landing on hard ground. The sound of a ship. Her senses sharpened instantly. Her heart gave a painful jump as fear washed through her. She was no longer alone. The human patrol ship landed near the entrance of the ruins with a heavy metallic thud. Dust rose into the air as Commander Hale and his partner stepped out. Their suits shone under the pale light of the alien sun. They carried weapons made to fight soldiers, not innocent explorers. Hale looked around the ruins with caution. "These readings are too high," he whispered. "Something inside is alive and unstable." He added, Lyra crouched behind a fallen wall, trying to calm her breathing, but the serum made her emotions too sharp, too wild. Fear, excitement, and confusion mixed inside her until she could barely think. She peeked over the edge and saw the humans walking toward the underground doorway. Her pulse jumped again. She had seen humans only once, from far away, but she never expected to face them like this, not while her body felt like a storm waiting to explode. The ground vibrated under her hands as Hale approached the hallway. His scanner beeped louder when it detected her unstable energy. "She's close," he murmured. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know she was just a young alien girl who made a terrible mistake. All he knew was that the energy inside her was dangerous. Dangerous enough to harm an entire colony if uncontrolled. Lyra tried to move away silently, but her foot stepped on a loose metal plate. The loud clang echoed through the hallway like a thunderstrike. Hale raised his weapon instantly. "Identify yourself," he called out. His voice was calm but strong. Lyra froze, unable to speak. The serum made her heart race so fast she felt dizzy. She stood slowly, shaking, her glowing eyes revealing her position. Hale's eyes widened as he saw the blue light pulsing through her veins. "It's her," he said softly. "She's the source," he added. Lyra stepped backward, afraid and unsteady. She didn't want to fight. She didn't want to hurt anyone. But the power inside her reacted to her fear. A sudden burst of energy shot from her hand again. The walls shook and dust fell from the ceiling. Hale ducked as the blast hit the ground near him. The humans were not the only ones who noticed the energy. Far away in space, another ship had turned toward her. A ship belonging to the Scorchers, a ruthless alien group hungry for any power they could steal. And now they were coming for her. Unwanted attention had found Lyra from every direction, and she had no idea how to escape it. The air outside the ruins grew strangely quiet, too quiet for a living colony. Even the wind slowed, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Far above the sky, a black shadow crossed the clouds. It was not a bird, not a human ship. It was something darker, sharper, and far more dangerous. A Scorcher Raider ship, known across the galaxies for hunting rare power sources, and today, that power source was Lyra. Inside the ruined hallway, Lyra stood trembling as Commander Hale approached her. She felt like her heart was trying to escape her chest. Her skin burned with unstable energy. Her hands glowed faintly. Even though she tried to hide them behind her back, Hale lowered his weapon slowly, trying not to scare her. He could see she was frightened. He could see she was changing in ways no alien should. "Listen to me," Hale said quietly. "You're not safe here," he added. But Lyra shook her head. Her emotions were too loud and too tangled for her to understand his calm voice. She stepped backward, and the blue lights under her skin flickered wildly. She whispered, "Stay away from me." Her voice cracked with fear and confusion. She was not a soldier or a threat. She was just a girl who made a mistake she could not undo. Suddenly, a deep roar echoed through the sky. The ground shook as something massive descended through the atmosphere. Hale looked upward with a grim expression. "That's no colony ship," he muttered. He knew that sound from his years in war, a Scorcher engine, the worst kind of enemy to encounter in a fragile place like this. The Scorcher ship landed with a violent crash. Its metal claws dug deep into the ground. Black smoke curled around its sharp edges. Several tall figures stepped out, each wearing dark armor carved with red markings. Their eyes glowed like burning coals. They moved like hunters scenting fresh prey. And every one of them looked straight toward the ruins. Lyra felt a sharp pain shoot through her spine, not from the serum this time, but from fear so strong it made her knees weak. She sensed danger moving toward her like a fast-growing storm. Her breathing became uneven. Her fingers twitched with uncontrolled power. Her instincts screamed at her to run. Commander Hale turned to her quickly. "They're coming for you," he said in a firm voice. "They can feel your energy," he added. Lyra stared at him with wide, glowing eyes. "Why?" she whispered. Hale took a slow breath. "Because the power inside you is not normal," he said. "It's something they would kill for." He continued, before Lyra could answer. The Scorchers reached the entrance of the ruins. Their heavy footsteps echoed like thunder across the metal floor. One of them raised a scanner and smiled when it beeped loudly. "She's inside," he growled. "Bring the girl out," another said as he stepped forward. The air filled with the cold scent of danger. Hale lifted his weapon again. But he knew he stood no chance alone against a group of Scorchers. He whispered to Lyra, "You have to trust me if you want to survive." Lyra felt her heart twist. She didn't trust humans. She didn't trust Scorchers. But she trusted the fear inside her. The fear that told her she would not survive alone. The Scorchers entered the hallway, their eyes gleaming as they spotted Lyra's glowing figure. "There she is," one hissed. Lyra stepped back, but her foot slipped on broken metal. A surge of panic rushed through her, and the serum reacted instantly. A blast of blue energy exploded from her body. The force knocked the Scorchers off their feet. The ruins shook violently as dust rained from the ceiling. Every wall seemed to vibrate with her unstable power. Hale shielded his eyes from the bright light. Lyra stared at her hands in shock. She couldn't control the power growing inside her. The Scorchers rose slowly, anger burning in their eyes. "Take her alive if possible," one growled. "But if she resists, destroy everything." He added. Lyra's world narrowed into a single thought. She had to run. She had to escape before her power hurt everyone around her. She turned and sprinted deeper into the ruins as the Scorchers charged after her for the first time. She understood the truth. She was no longer being hunted by fear or curiosity. She was being hunted for what she had become, and the real war for her life had just begun. Lyra ran through the narrow tunnels of the old human base. Her footsteps echoed like sharp beats against the metal floor. Her breath came out fast and uneven. She could feel the serum burning hotter inside her chest with every second. It felt like a living fire pushing against her ribs, like it wanted to break free. She pressed one hand to her heart, but the heat only grew stronger, stronger than fear, stronger than her own will. Behind her, the Scorchers' voices filled the tunnels. They moved quickly, their metal boots smashing the broken floor. They were hunters, trained to track even the smallest sound, and Lyra was glowing like a beacon in the dark. She tried to slow her breathing so they would not hear her, but the serum made her heart beat too loud, too wild, too fast for her to hide. She turned a corner and nearly fell. Her legs felt too powerful, too heavy, like they belonged to someone else. The world around her spun for a moment. Her vision sharpened and then blurred again. She grabbed a metal pipe on the wall to keep herself upright. Her hand squeezed it by instinct. The pipe bent under her grip as if it were soft clay. Lyra gasped and stared at it in shock. The strength inside her was growing faster than she could control. She whispered weakly, "Please stop. Please just stop." But the serum did not listen. The power inside her pulsed again, hotter and brighter. Blue light flickered under her skin like moving lightning. Her bones felt like they were vibrating. She pressed her back to the cold wall and closed her eyes. She wished for the feeling to calm, but it only grew sharper. A sudden voice beside her made her jump. "Lyra," it said quietly. She opened her eyes to see Commander Hale approaching slowly. He had managed to follow the trail of melted metal and glowing marks she left behind. His face showed worry, not anger. He held no weapon in his hands now, only concern. "You need help," he said softly. "You can't control this alone." He added. Lyra shook her head in panic. "I can't trust you," she whispered. Her voice cracked as another pulse of heat shot through her spine. Hale stepped closer, but stopped when she raised her hand. A faint blue spark danced between her fingers. "I don't want to hurt anyone," Lyra said helplessly. Hale nodded slowly. "I know," he replied. "That's why I'm here." He added. Before she could answer, the ground shook violently. The Scorchers had reached the outer room of the tunnels. Their leader shouted, "Find the girl, now." The sound carried through the halls like thunder. Lyra pressed both hands to her ears. Her senses were too sharp. Every noise stabbed into her mind. Every vibration felt like a punch. "You don't understand," Lyra said with a trembling voice. "The serum is getting stronger," she continued. "If I don't stop it, it will break me," she whispered. Hale's expression changed. He knelt in front of her and spoke quickly but calmly. "That serum was designed for human soldiers," he explained. "It pushes their strength, their speed, their instincts, but your body is different." He added. "It might overload you," he said. Lyra felt another surge rising. Her hands glowed bright blue. She clutched her chest and fell to her knees. The heat inside her exploded into a painful wave. She screamed as her energy burst outward in a ring of blue light. The tunnel walls cracked from the force. Small rocks rained down from the ceiling. Dust filled the air like falling ash. Hale grabbed her shoulders to keep her steady. "Listen to me," he said sharply. "You're running out of time," he warned. "If we don't stabilize the serum soon, it could destroy you." Lyra's glowing eyes widened with fear. She didn't want to die. She didn't want to become a weapon, but she could feel the power slipping out of her control. The Scorcher's footsteps grew louder again. They were getting closer, too close. Lyra tried to stand, but her legs refused to move. She felt trapped between enemies outside and the burning storm inside her. Her breath shook as she whispered, "What do I do?" Hale looked her straight in the eyes. "You come with me," he said. "We save you before they take you," he added. Lyra didn't know if she could trust him, but she did know one thing clearly. She was running out of time, and the storm inside her was not waiting for anyone. The tunnels shook again as the Scorcher stormed deeper into the ruins. Their heavy footsteps echoed like metal thunder. Lyra felt each vibration moving through her bones. The serum inside her reacted to the danger, pulsing harder and hotter. Her skin glowed brighter with every heartbeat. She tried to steady her breathing, but the air felt too sharp to swallow. Commander Hale grabbed her arm gently but firmly. "We need to move," he whispered. His voice was calm, but his eyes showed rising fear. Lyra nodded weakly and tried to stand. Her legs trembled under the weight of her unstable power. Hale supported her as they stepped into a wider chamber of the ruins. The room was filled with old machines and broken screens. Dust hung in the air like gray fog. Faint lights still glowed on the walls. Reacting strangely to Lyra's presence, she could feel the machines pulling toward her energy, as if the entire base remembered the serum and wanted to wake again. A sudden crash behind them made Hall turn quickly. 3 Scorchers burst into the chamber with weapons raised. Their armor glowed with red energy. Their eyes locked on Lyra's glowing form. "There she is," one hissed. "Take her," another growled. Lyra stumbled back as fear mixed with the overwhelming heat inside her. Her heartbeat throbbed like a burning drum. The serum responded before she could think. Blue sparks shot from her fingertips and cracked across the floor. The Scorchers dodged the first burst but kept advancing. Their movements were fast, trained, merciless. Hale stepped in front of Lyra and fired his weapon. A sharp beam of light struck one Scorcher's armor, pushing him back a step. But it wasn't enough to stop him. They were stronger, heavier, built for war. "Stay behind me," Hale shouted. Lyra wanted to obey, but her power did not want to stay quiet. The heat climbed her spine again. Her chest tightened as another wave of energy fought to break free. She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to control it. "Not again," she whispered, but the Serum didn't listen. A Scorcher leaped forward with a metal spear. Hale dodged and fired again. The beam hit the ground, sending dust into the air. Another Scorcher moved behind them. Closing the circle, Lyra felt trapped. Her breath shook as fear twisted into something sharper, something aggressive. Her vision sharpened into glowing blue lines. Her ears picked up every heartbeat in the room, every crack in the walls, every breath the Scorchers took. The Serum demanded to be released. It pushed and burned like a rising storm begging to escape. One Scorcher lunged at Lyra. His shadow covered her trembling form. The moment he swung his weapon, Lyra's power erupted. A giant wave of blue energy blasted outward from her body. The force threw the Scorchers across the chamber, sending them crashing into the walls. Hale shielded his face from the blinding light. Dust exploded into the air like a storm cloud. When the light faded, Lyra stood in the center of the room, her hair lifted by invisible wind. Her eyes glowing like two bright blue flames. She stared at her hands in shock. "I did that," she whispered. Her voice trembled with fear and disbelief. The Scorchers groaned as they tried to stand again, their armor cracked and smoking. But they were far from defeated. Their leader stepped forward with cold fury in his eyes. "Enough," he growled. "This power belongs to us," he shouted. Lyra felt panic rising again. She didn't want to hurt anyone, but she didn't want to be taken, not by people who saw her only as a weapon. She looked at Hale with desperate eyes. "What do I do?" she whispered. Hale pointed toward the far exit. "We escape," he said firmly. "But what about them?" Lyra asked with a trembling voice. Hale stared at the Scorchers approaching again. His voice dropped low as he replied, "We fight only if we must." Lyra swallowed hard, her body still burning with leftover energy. Her fear was strong, but something else was rising too. A new strength, a new instinct. A new power she didn't fully understand. The Scorchers charged again. Hale raised his weapon, and Lyra stepped forward as the blue glow spread across her skin again. The clash for power had begun, and she was no longer the weak girl who entered these ruins. She was something new, something the Scorchers had never seen before, something even she could not control yet.